Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. I'm Alex Whiteley, and today we're coming from the Market Hall. And so if you hear the generators and people, oh, go and buy some fish or whatever the Market Hall sounds like, that's why. I've just seen Karen Duffy as well from Art Duffy. She just popped by and said hello. Today's guest I'm speaking to is someone I used to speak to an awful lot, featured on the Biscuit so many times, because at one point he was the busiest man in Shrewsbury. And then he disappeared for a little bit. Now he's back. Today I'm speaking to Phil Gillam, ex-mayor of Shrewsbury. How are you, Phil?
Hi, Alex. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Everything good at the Biscuit?
Everything's going okay. Everything's going good. I'm plodding along, keeping on, making some great content. And you know, the best thing about this town is you never run out of things to talk about. So it's easy in a way.
Yeah.
You know,
it is a fantastic town. Yeah.
How have you been since? I know it's been a while. We have a fantastic mayor who's doing a great job. But since you hung up the cloak, how's life been for you? How's the transition been?
Yeah, fine, thank you. I'm involved in lots of different things. I've been working for local charities, most recently a fantastic charity called Community Resource. So I'm never bored. I'm never twiddling my thumbs. I've always got plenty to do. And I still do a great deal of writing, and I still do publishing of books and so on and so forth. So, quite busy, thank you.
I was taking pictures, sorry. But how does it, because obviously when you're the mayor, you can't do an awful lot of that, can you? You're supposed to just... can you? When it comes to writing, I guess no one can tell if you're sat in a room typing away, working away.
No. The thing about being the mayor is that when you are the mayor, when you are performing mayoral duties, then you have to be strictly apolitical, and therefore you're very careful not to express opinions and so on and so forth. Because you represent the entire town. In every shade and colour of that town. So, unless
you're the mayor of London, of course, because then you can say what you want.
Well, that's a very different thing. That's an elected mayor as opposed to a ceremonial mayor. Yeah. Because London and the big cities, they usually have two mayors. They have a ceremonial mayor who does things like opening new shops, and then they have the elected mayor who is a politician. So it's a very different thing. Yeah.
It was a busy time for you. You were here, there, you were everywhere.
Yeah. I loved every single minute.
And that's what I loved about you as the mayor, because you relished it and you enjoyed it, and you got to see these amazing things and meet these amazing people. Has it inspired you as a writer, as a person that makes things?
I think insofar as meeting so many different people, that always fascinates me. I just love meeting people. I'm a people person. And so, that range from, as I say, opening new restaurants, opening new shops, to, I did a skydive to raise money for the Samaritans. It was the most terrifying thing I have ever
brilliant thing, though. It's fantastic.
Don't ask me to do another.
So you never do one again?
I don't think so. I think when the parachute opens, it's really great because you float majestically down to ground, and it's really beautiful, and you have this fantastic scenery, and it's lovely. But the actual skydive between the aircraft and the parachute opening, when you're plummeting to Earth, that is absolutely terrifying. And I didn't really enjoy that bit, I have to say.
I bet that jump out of the plane is psychologically quite ridiculous.
Yeah. You're strapped to a professional parachutist, so you trust that person knows what they're doing, but it's still terrifying. And there was a point, you're in the aircraft, you reach the necessary height, and they'll say, now I want you to shuffle your bottom towards the open door, and then dangle your legs outside the aircraft, and there's this rush of air as they open the door, and you think, what am I doing? It just goes against every instinct, and you dangle your legs, and then a couple of seconds later, you're just plummeting to Earth, and it is pretty frightening. I know that some people love it, and some people go back into it again and again and again, but whoa, no, I think once was enough for me.
Well done for doing it anyway, especially for charity and stuff, it's such a charitable town. There's so many people doing amazing things with charity, but that goes up there with the epitome of like what you're supposed to do. You put your body on the line for charity. So well done for that. Well done. So what have you been working on? Obviously, there's lots of amazing things going on around the town, and has gone on around the town. It's an amazing history, lots of culture, and I've been reading about that you've been working on 2 books. Is that right?
Yeah, I know. Never do things by halves. Yeah, one book is never enough. So I seem to have published 2 almost simultaneously, which wasn't really the plan. It's just the way things panned out. Of course, in each case, a great deal of work was involved, and so it looks like I've been really, really busy because I've published 2 books overnight. But the truth is, of course, each one of those has been months and months and months in the making, and possibly even years. So yeah, I've got two out at the moment. So I'm really here to talk about the Shrewsbury Review, but I'll also mention the other one, which is a history of the Shrewsbury Chronicle, which is 250 years old. It was launched in 1772, and I'll talk about that a little bit as we go along. But the Shrewsbury Review, picture, if you will, the Blue Peter Annual, or whatever. I don't know, in your case, Alex, it was probably, you're too cool to have had the Blue Peter Annual. I'm guessing it would have been something like Spider-Man or the Mighty Thor or something.
Probably Turtles. I love the Turtles when I was
really.
Teenage Mutant Ninja. They were cool, man. They were the best.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, as children, we all had a Christmas annual, a favourite Christmas annual, and I always think about the Blue Peter one because I had that for years and years and years. But yes, you know that anticipation, when you're a child and you're looking forward to Christmas and you're really looking forward to your favourite annual. So I had this idea. How about an annual all about Shrewsbury, its people, its buildings, its history, and also how it ticks along today and looking to the future, and so everything Shrewsbury really. And I know, it's a very beautiful town. It's a very historic town, and I know that there's many, many people very proud to be a part of it. So I got together with this guy called Richard Bishop, who is a very talented professional photographer. Now, the funny thing about Richard and I is we ought to have known one another for decades, really. It's really bizarre. We were both born on the same street. He's just a little bit older than me, but not significantly. He's a little bit older. We were born on Pool Rise, which is a street in Springfield. So that was the first coincidence. Then we discovered when we were a little bit older, we both went to live in Castlefields, and we grew up, our childhood, our teenage years was in Castlefields. And then the third coincidence, if you like, was that we've both had careers with the Shropshire Star. He as a photographer, me as a journalist.
Wow.
Now, you would think, wouldn't you, after all that we would have met one another somewhere along the line. But bizarrely, we only really met about 3 years ago, and we started to go for a coffee at Percy Throwers and a chat, and because we realised we had a lot in common, and we felt that we could do something, we could work together in some way and create something. Because we're both Shrewsbury born and bred, we both love the town with a passion. So we thought, what can we do? What can we do? So the first thing was, we started talking about newspapers. Well, obviously, the Shrewsbury Chronicle is the newspaper for the town, so that was a bit of a non-starter. There's no point in going up against that. So then we thought of a magazine, and then, of course, Katy Rink does her wonderful, wonderful My Shrewsbury, fantastic magazine. So we thought, okay, what else could we do? Oh, I know, what about a book? So we started to formulate this idea of a book that was Shrewsbury-tastic from beginning to end.
I love that, Shrewsbury-tastic.
So we thought, okay, it's going to have beautiful photographs of the town in, because Richard is a very talented photographer, and he is insistent on going back and back and back until he gets the image he really wants, So there's an example of that in the book, well, many examples of that, but in particular, there's one of the English bridge with the late afternoon sunlight on the arches of the bridge, And he said, I went back, I took it, and I took it, and I took it, and it wasn't quite right. So I went back another day, and it was a little bit dull. That wasn't quite right. So, and he kept going back until the light was perfect, And most of us don't have the time or the inclination to do that, and that's what a professional photographer does, And so the pictures are superb, and the one on the cover, I think, of Martin Wood, the town crier, and the little girl with the umbrella, is just a lovely, lovely picture.
'Cause she's looking at him like, whoa, because he's so tall. And he's like, hello, little one. Yeah, that's beautiful. It really
exactly,
is nice.
Yeah. And it was just, Richard had the patience to sort of hang around for a little while. It was actually raining, which would put a lot of photographers off. They might say, oh, hang on, it's pouring with rain. We'll come back another day. But no, it was raining, which actually helps the picture because you got all the reflections on the pavement and everything. And then he looked around, and there was this family walking down Pride Hill, and there was a little girl with an umbrella, and he said, excuse me, is it all right if I just borrow you a little girl for a minute for a photograph, And they said, yeah, of course. And it is a really lovely photograph. We've got personality profiles. Yeah. We're just looking now at a picture of Shrewsbury Library. Beautiful.
Centerpiece.
Yeah. We've got personality profiles on many of the colourful people that make this town tick. We've got lots of articles about the history. We've got a piece about Castlefields, the history of Castlefields, which was where I grew up.
I'm thinking through this backwards. This is a typical thing to do, but
no, that's fine.
Shire Hall there.
Yeah. So Alex is flapping through from the back to the front.
No, because I haven't actually seen this yet, and I've been dying to speak to you about it.
Yeah,
and it's really nice that I'm looking at this. And you got some really. What I loved about this is you put there was a post about the influential women of Shrewsbury at the moment.
Yeah,
with Maggie Love and Sarah Harper, and this is. It is really important to illustrate these people because time moves on, right? Time moves on.
Yeah.
And people might have their moment in the sun of doing something really good for the town, and it might get mentioned in a newspaper, and it might come on the Shrewsbury Biscuit and talk about it. Yeah. But it's done with.
Yeah.
This is something. This is a collection of stories and influences and inspiration. So
yes, it is. Yeah, and there are many hundreds of wonderful people, thousands of wonderful people in Shrewsbury. It's a great town, and we obviously can't feature everybody, and that's why we kind of thought, wouldn't it be lovely to do it as an annual, so that each time we can zero in on half a dozen of our colourful characters, as I say. But also, looking at the history, our very, very beautiful buildings. So we've got a wonderful piece about the castle and some lovely pictures of the castle. In fact, probably the best picture of the castle I've ever seen, I have to say. Richard, again, it was just, he wouldn't allow himself to take a second-rate picture, so everything had to be right. So for this one, he climbed up onto the roof of the library.
Wow.
He did get permission. He didn't just...
He didn't do a Chris Shirk. Shrewsbury from where you are not.
Yeah. No, he didn't just grab a ladder and climb up, He got permission from the chief librarian and went up onto the roof. Again, the daylight, the play of the sunlight on the castle, everything was just right. And I've never seen a picture like it. It shows Shrewsbury Castle.
Can I see it? Which page is it?
Yeah, sure. So, it's almost an aerial shot, really, because it's looking down from the library. I'm just finding it now for Alex. And there's these wispy clouds in the background.
Wow.
And what's kind of unusual is within the same shot, you also see our beautiful railway station on the left. And then if you look very closely over on the right, that's All Saints Church, the roof of All Saints Church, which is in North Street in Castlefields. And you think, how can you see all that in one picture? It's amazing.
It really is fantastic, actually.
Yeah. So I just love that. And I love that he went the extra mile, in this case, upwards. He went the extra mile to get that picture. And of course, you and I, we might wander through town with our phones or cameras and take a few nice pictures, and we're reasonably happy with them. And we might say, oh, I'm pleased with that. I'll put that on Facebook, But at the end of the day, there's usually nothing remarkable about it. It's just a picture of the quarry or a picture of the castle. It's okay, but thousands of people take pictures like that, But Richard insisted that if we were going to do this book, he would get some truly unusual pictures. And that's what he's done. So it sort of shows the town in a slightly different light from that point of view. And I so enjoyed interviewing the personalities, as I say. So, yeah, I'm going to take a sip of water now, Alex.
Absolutely. No, I can hear the passion and how much this means to you. And you know, when you're talking about photographers, I totally understand. We have the amazing Phil Morris that follows me around. Doesn't follow me around. He does a great job with the Shrewsbury Biscuit. He's a fantastic photographer, so much talent. And there's a couple of incidences. One went to Sam Pooley Stride's Seas of the Moon 2, I think. And there was a light display at the other end of the room, and there's a long bench. And he's lying on this bench trying to get the perfect shot.
Yeah.
And he's trying with different lenses, trying with different cameras. In the end, he got a really good one with his phone. Funny enough. And we were at the protest, the walk through Ukraine. You know, the walk through town. And he's taking this picture that's taken for you. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm waiting for the flags to go in opposite directions. He wanted the UK flag and the Ukraine to be facing separate directions for the perfect photo.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
hats off to you photographers. You do a great job. You really do.
Ah, good. Yeah, you know, it does. Usually, you can tell the difference, I think, between a picture that you or I might take and a professional picture. You know, there's quite a difference. And it's, you know, partly the equipment. You know, obviously it helps to have, you know, top equipment, but also they have a certain eye. They have the experience. They just know how to get the best picture. So, you know, we've got a beautiful picture of the Abbey. We've got a sort of almost a newsy kind of roundup over 4 pages of what's been happening in the town over the past year or so. So we've got columns from the local police, from the town council, from the business improvement district.
I need to speak to the local police. I've been trying to get in touch with them. I have.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I accidentally messaged the chief inspector of the whole of West Mercia Police.
Right.
It's the wrong email. These things happen, but I want to speak to the local police and talk about them and give them.
Yeah. I'm sure you can organise that. Yeah.
So if anybody from the police is listening, just make it happen.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you know, some of the people that we've got in here. You know, Maggie Love is extremely well known. She seems to, I think she travels through space and time because she seems to be everywhere at once.
Yeah.
You know, I just keep bumping into Maggie. She's
a lot of love for Maggie. A lot of love.
So many things. So she's amazing, and you know, not a lot of people will know her backstory. You know, that she was a professional dancer and that she was involved in professional theatre for many years.
Worked out in America.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story, and we've got some cracking pictures of Maggie.
And if you want to find out more, we did do an interview with her not long ago. So
there you go. But I love that. That's Maggie as a young dancer. This doesn't really work on a podcast.
No. She's looking very glam, very. But this is what I was talking to you about before, about making sure that these stories and these good things that people do leave a legacy. You know, the books like this, stories, the podcasts, even whatever, they're there forever. Then.
Yeah, well, I know you're passionate, obviously, about Shrewsbury, else you wouldn't be doing the biscuit. You know? I mean, we just love this town, don't we? And I think something sort of more permanent, you know, than a newspaper or a magazine. It's just something.
It's like a coffee book table, isn't it?
It is a little bit of a coffee table book. Yeah,
coffee book table. Yeah. Did I say coffee book? I said coffee book table.
You did say coffee book table, but I wasn't going to pick you up on that. I thought we'd got away with it, Alex. But yeah, so it's packed with stuff. You know, there's a great picture of Granville, the butcher who retired recently after many years.
Yeah, it was a huge shock. That was. It's closed one day, and then
yeah. I mean, he was incredible. What a character, you know. And I'm a vegetarian, so I shouldn't really be saying this, but what a character. And you know, I know that he had a very loyal clientele, and they all missed that shop.
That was during the summer. It always had a line outside.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Yeah. So we've got Lorraine in here, Lorraine Fletcher.
Amazing. I need to get her on again. I spoke to her when I first started the biscuit, and I think we need trying to get her in front of a microphone is a nightmare because she's quite shy.
Yeah. I mean, she does For the Love of Shrewsbury Facebook page, which is incredible. It's got thousands and thousands of followers. And For the Love of Shropshire. And she must spend all her waking hours doing that, I think. Well, she doesn't, I know, because she works. But, you know, it is incredible, the popularity of those pages on Facebook. As I say, we've got the English Bridge. We've got a great piece about Andrew Arrell, who's a fantastic architect who's done so much for Shrewsbury over many, many decades. So he's fascinating. The just lovely pictures of Fish Street and the Lion Hotel. We've got a piece about Caroline Jones, who's the postmistress at Abbey Foregate post office. And she's a character.
I need to get her on. Definitely need to get her on. I've never spoke to her before.
Yeah, she's a character.
We're aware of each other. I know, from her social media, I get it.
Yeah. And she's so popular, and that's like a little community in itself. That post office. It's always busy. Caroline, apart from selling stamps and parcels and all the rest of it, she does so much more. She sells gifts and paintings and books, all kinds of stuff. So it's a real community place. It's
like if you're listening to this thinking, I'd love to go to like a gift shop, a Shrewsbury gift shop that represents Shrewsbury and the most Shrewsbury. That post office on Abbey Foregate is where you need to go because it's all locally sourced stuff.
It is. It's fantastic. As I've mentioned Shrewsbury Castle, nice piece about that. Now, the Shire Hall, highly controversial Shire Hall. Latest news is that Shropshire Council will be abandoning that and finding headquarters elsewhere, and so that makes the building redundant. And the likelihood is that Shire Hall will be demolished, and the likelihood, of course, then is that some developer will come along and build houses there. Now, whatever you think about the Shire Hall, it's a really interesting place. You might say, guys, a sort of 60s monstrosity, I hate it, I'll be glad when it's gone, Other people say it's a sort of brutalist classic, it's a classic of its time, and we should preserve it. I have mixed feelings about it. I quite like what I call the flying saucer bit at the front.
That's really cool. I like that.
But I mean, the rest of it, basically, to my mind, it's just an office block like any other.
It's cladding. That's what it is. It's just that front bit is it's quite nice. I really like that bit.
Yeah, by all means, keep the flying saucer bit at the front and do something with the rest. But it is very contentious, and it is something that people argue about a lot. We've got a piece in here about the Shire Hall, again with some pretty extraordinary photographs from Richard of it, showing it from different angles. And the piece actually has been written by the son of the architect. So this is the son of the man who designed the Shire Hall.
Wow.
So Mr. John Crowe. And he is arguing that it is a classic. You might say, well, he would say that, wouldn't he? Because his dad designed it, But he argues very eloquently about why it should be saved. Sadly, I don't think it will be, but it's a very interesting piece. So that's something to get your head around.
It's one of those things because, like, when we talk about the heritage of this town, and when we talk about all the old buildings and that, how far back in history do we go? Do we keep things from the Art Deco period?
Yeah.
The 60s, the 70s. Do we start keeping architecture that was of the modern era that is now considered as old? I mean,
it's a really interesting thing to discuss, isn't it? Because we're sitting here today, Alex, you and I, in the Shrewsbury Market Hall.
Again, controversial.
Yeah, controversial. Now, anyone that's seen, David Trumper's wonderful pictures of the old town in the books that David has produced will have seen some fantastic pictures of the Victorian Market Hall, which lasted about 100 years, I think, from about 1865 to 1965. And around about 1965, they demolished it brick by brick, and they took down the tower with its amazing clock. It was quite Gothic, It would appeal to you, Alex, being a sort of Gothic kind of a guy.
I like Batman. I can just imagine Batman on top of that clock.
Yeah. There's some really evocative photographs of it at night time. And the play of light on the tower, it was an extraordinary place. A little bit scary, a little bit,
But apparently it was decayed, fallen apart. Apparently it would have taken a lot of money to save.
Yeah, I mean, that's what people say. But then you look around the country and you look at other buildings of a similar era that had become dilapidated. I think a lot of it was political will, that they said to themselves, well, do you know what? It's rat infested, it's damp, it's got a hole in the roof, etc., etc. Let's just knock it down and we'll build a nice modern market. And that was the thinking in those days, wasn't it? That if a building was looking old and shabby, we'll knock it down and we'll put up something new. Now, again, this market hall architecturally, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the market hall. It's buzzing, it's alive, it's got so many great little businesses in here. I love it. What I'm not so much of a fan of is the architecture, even though I've kind of known it all my life, and that clock tower has become kind of iconic, really. But I don't think I'd shed too many tears if they came along and said, well, we're going to get rid of that building, going to replace it with something a bit more in keeping with Shrewsbury. Somebody once likened Shrewsbury Market Hall to a spacecraft, that it had just sort of
looks
landed.
like a ship to me.
Yeah. It had sort of come down from another planet and just plonked itself in the middle of Shrewsbury,
I quite like the clock tower, and if you look, my radio show, Naughty Talk, I do incorporate the Shrewsbury clock tower weirdly
So you do.
into the audio thing,
So you do.
into the logo,
Yeah.
because that's where I'm from, right? And
Yeah.
people listen to my show from around the world, so I want to tell people that. So that was just an idea I came up with, but I know it's different, and I know it's not of the same structure as some of the beautiful or architecture we've got around here, but it is of a time.
Yeah.
And that's the point.
Yeah,
That's the point.
That's the point. Yeah. Do we really want everything to look medieval, for example? It's an interesting one. I think some of the towns and cities in Germany that were flattened by bombing during the war, they afterwards recreated those buildings exactly as they were. Now, there's something to be said for that. But it's also a little bit of a lie, isn't it? Because things have moved on, and it's like pretending that city had never been bombed. Taking it right back to how it was. Now, you can argue that every which way, and I'm much more a fan of medieval buildings and Victorian buildings than of 1960s buildings, So I sort of wear my heart on my sleeve when it comes to that, and I have written about that extensively in the past, and so there's no going back and pretending otherwise.
Well, you wrote a book about the general market, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, I'd almost forgotten about that, Alex.
I got it in my bag. I brought it. It's all the way over there, though. I brought it as a prop, just like we're in the market hall, but it makes a lot of sense because here is this book.
Yeah. But and by the way, while we're in the market hall, I should mention the wonderful Raven books on the balcony here.
Yeah.
The lovely Laura runs.
I love her Instagram. It's so good. She puts like pictures of her of the book. It's got a face above her face.
Yeah, it's clever, isn't it?
She's so good.
Yeah. Really. So Laura here at Raven Books, she's selling the Shrewsbury Review, and indeed my other little book, which I'll come on to in a mo. So that's one place where you can get it, here at Raven Books in the market. And then you can also get it at Penguin Books in Fish Street, run by the lovely Susan Caroline. You can get it at Waterstones in High Street, run by the lovely Tim Arblaster. You can get it from, as I say, Abbey Foregate Post Office, run by the lovely Caroline Jones. Everybody's lovely in Shrewsbury.
They are. Everyone, all of you.
All of you. Or directly from us. You can email us at the Shrewsbury Review, all one word, all lowercase, at gmail.com. The Shrewsbury Review at gmail.com.
What I will say is, on a personal point of view, so I've got family all around the world. My wife is from South America and she's got family over there. This is something great to send back to people, whether they're expats, whether you've got family that are curious about where you live. If you wanted something to send to them, this is perfect.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a love letter from Shrewsbury. That's what it is.
Love letter from Shrewsbury. Thank you, Alex. That's, I'm going to use that.
You can keep it. Because it is beautiful. It's a really striking book. I love the cover because Martin is just such a striking character, isn't he?
We actually went to school together. Martin and I
love the stories about the trains and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he always accuses me of having borrowed his Flying Scotsman to use on my train set. Every time we meet, he brings it up, especially when there's a third party, and he'll say, "Oh, yeah, this is Phil, and he borrowed the Flying Scotsman off me when I was a kid, and I never got it back." It's complete rubbish. I did borrow a Flying Scotsman, but it wasn't from Martin, and I did give it back.
course we did. Of course, that's the truth.
I just wanted to make that clear. I have my solicitor with me. I ought to mention as well, so I've got this little volume out, a more modest volume than the Shrewsbury Review, a little A5 booklet, which tells the history of the Shrewsbury Chronicle,
Beautiful.
Which is our esteemed newspaper. So, that's been going since 1772. So there's, though I say it myself, a nice little booklet available at all those bookshops that I've just mentioned. And it not only tells the history of the Shrewsbury Chronicle, but there's a few sort of funny stories in there, a little bit about my early days on the Chron. That was my first newspaper back in 1977. And some of the funny stories that happened to me there. So that's
how things have changed, though, right? I mean, some aspects, yes, and some aspects, no. When it works, when it's with the media,
yeah,
the media is the media, right? It is what it is. But I love, like, when I first started at Shrewsbury Prison as an actor.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, I want to learn about all the. It's really gruesome, but it fascinates me. All the executions that have gone on there, how many people have been executed there? And I was looking at some of the old news stories from the Chronicle, and one of them was just like, if I remember rightly, there was a guy who got executed for shooting someone off a train in Dorley with a revolver. And I was just like, what? Like, this is just insane. Like, it's just crazy how things move in this county. I don't know. This is fantastic.
I always think how far we've come, because people. Well, first of all, people were executed hundreds of years ago for quite small matters. Right?
Yeah. This guy was shooting his revolver off a train.
Well, yeah. Oh, he didn't actually kill anybody.
I don't know. I can't remember. I think he must have. He must have done something.
Yeah. But people obviously in hundreds of years ago were hung for stealing a sheep or stealing a horse or something. But probably. Or even the modern day equivalent of parking on a double yellow line, and you hear about what really breaks my heart, when you read these accounts of Victorian times, is children who perhaps were starving and they
stole a loaf of bread.
Yeah, steal a loaf of bread or an apple or something, and the punishment was just so disproportionate to the crime.
Yeah,
and this poor child was probably starving, and that wasn't taken into account at all. It's just terrible times, really. We live in much more enlightened times.
And that's why it's really important to look at things like the Chronicle and go back, and these books for, these... It's all journalism in a good way. You can go back and read about history and how things change. And you know what? I think it's actually... I've been talking a lot about hyperlocal audio at the moment, because the Shrewsbury Biscuit is kind of keeping a trend across the country, with people looking at this show now and how it works, because we've lost local radio stations in a way. They've all synergized. For now, I say for now because I'm about to start In Tune Radio. I've got my own show coming. That'll be good. It's good to replace that with a different media, like these books, and go back and read about the newspapers. Yeah. Not everybody wants to hear about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. They want to hear about local stories from local people,
Well, sure, yeah, absolutely. And I think there is a movement, isn't there? In some respects, we are going back to the old days. In some respects, I mean, things have changed, and probably irreversibly so. And I am sad. I have to say, I am very sad that local newspapers now are a shadow of their former selves, And when I started on the Shrewsbury Chronicle, you would have very long and interesting obituaries of local people that had recently passed away. You would have a page or 2 pages of local weddings, so you knew everybody that was getting married, All that's been lost. In-depth journalism in local newspapers is almost gone. It just doesn't exist really, and that's really sad. Because if you were to go to Shropshire Archives and just look at Shrewsbury Chronicle as it was in the 70s, for example, when I worked there, the coverage was fantastic. So I know it sounds a bit silly to some people, perhaps, but you would have pages about the Cubs and the Scouts and the Boys Brigade and the Girl Guides and the Brownies. Every tiny organisation with the badge at the top, and then a few paragraphs written by the local scoutmaster or girl guide leader or whatever it was. And the same with parish councils, so that Baston Hill Parish Council, I used to attend all their meetings when I was a young reporter, and I didn't even drive then. I used to have to go to Baston Hill on the bus and try and get a lift off one of the councillors on the way home, because probably there wasn't a bus home afterwards, that kind of thing. And every cough and spit, there's going to be a new litter bin outside the shop or something, everything. And hilariously, when someone lost the parrot, I remember, the Polly the parrot flew off one day in Baston Hill, and I did a story about that and how heartbroken this lady was because her pet parrot had flown away, and things like this. Well, you just don't get that anymore in local newspapers.
No, you don't. And I think what people that, right, if you write a local newspaper, right, you got to think about, if this newspaper was found in a hole in 150 years' time, how would Shrewsbury look, or how would my town look if someone was to read this?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good test of, am I writing garbage about garbage? Because it's good. Newspapers are an account of life at the time.
Indeed, yeah. There's so much going on out there. There's so many good people doing good things, and it just doesn't get reported. No, you're absolutely right.
So what's the response been to this book then? Has it been flying off the shelf? Have people been
flying off the shelf? It is kind of flying off the shelf in some respects, yeah. Because do you know what? You just mentioned the biscuit's never been in the Shropshire Star. Well, we the Shrewsbury Review so far hasn't been in the Shropshire Star. It's early days. It's only been available for a couple of weeks. And so, in some ways, I'm delighted that all those shops, Penguin Books and Raven Books and Waterstones, they're all selling it nicely, steadily, which is great, because not that many people know about it, which I hope that will be rectified partly by this podcast. But we've yet to approach Shropshire Star, my old employers, the Shropshire Star, Shrewsbury Chronicle, BBC Radio Shropshire, My Shrewsbury magazine. There are so many outlets which we haven't really touched yet. Actually, Katy at My Shrewsbury, to be fair, next edition, she is carrying a piece about the Shrewsbury Review. So thank you very much for that, Katy.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. So, we're gearing up to a sort of a harder launch. It's been a very soft launch so far, and relatively few people know about it.
Now, I was going to say, I'd love to. It's hard to put like a number on how many books. I guarantee we'll probably sell you a couple of books by people listening to this. But it's never easy to put a figure on that. So if you bought this book, if you bought the Shrewsbury Review, just on the strength that you've heard this on the podcast, drop me a message. Let me know, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram. If you heard it on the Shrewsbury Biscuit and you went out and bought a copy of this book and you loved it, get in touch with us. I'd love to be able to come back to Phil and be like, we sold you 5 copies.
Well,
maybe we sell more than that, but
No, we would love that. We'd just love to hear from people, and there's an opportunity. As I say, I mentioned the email address earlier. There's an opportunity for you to send your feedback, because we want to know. We want to know what you think. We want to know your favourite bits, what made you laugh, what got your interest. We've got a 100-question quiz in here.
Yes, hearing about this quiz.
Yeah, every single question is about Shrewsbury. So I can't imagine that anyone would have the answers to all of them straight away. But I like the idea. Call it fanciful if you will, but I quite like the idea of sort of mum, dad, kids all sitting around, going through this quiz together. Because the youngsters will know some things that mum and dad don't know, and vice versa, So some of them about, street names, some of them about famous Shrewsbury Town footballers, So it's a whole range of stuff, and it'll keep you busy for a while, I reckon. So have a go at that if you get a copy of the book.
Fantastic. And this is going to be an annual thing then? Every year?
I mean, that's absolutely our intention. Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's no end to. I mean, as Katy has found with My Shrewsbury magazine, there's no end to the interesting people and interesting buildings in the town.
Never ends. It really never ends.
It never.
Love it. It's a bottomless pit of talent, raw talent. That's what I say. I always say.
You're talking about yourself again.
Maybe. No, it's definitely Shrewsbury is. It's inspirational though, because it doesn't. I'm not. It doesn't end. I meet so many wonderful people. Yesterday I put a huge appeal out because the venue that we were supposed to do this at kind of fell through, and I had a very short amount of time to try and find a venue. So I put an appeal out. I wrote to like loads of different places, and because people are busy, it's their job and it's their business and stuff. They didn't get back to me later in the evening, but like I got 4 or 5 places got in touch with me, and they were like, "Yeah, come do the recording here." And I was just so grateful that so many people. And so thank you as well to Darren from GinDifferent who let us use his.
Yeah, what a great place this is. Yeah, I love it.
It's a great setting.
GinDifferent, yeah, super. So yeah, I mean, there's just so much variety in here. You know, as I say, Martin Wood. You might think you know the guy. Well, I'll tell you what. You know, you read the piece in here, and it's pretty funny stuff. He's quite a character. We've got a piece about the iconic signal box. You know, the beautiful Shrewsbury signal box, which is someone called it a cathedral among signal boxes. You know,
that's beautiful.
You know, if you're a railway buff, you know, it's the largest signal box in Europe. Can you imagine?
Yeah,
it's just fantastic, and it's such an icon because if you're coming in on the train, you know, and you look out and there it is, you think, I'm home.
I'm home.
Yeah, it's great. We've got a piece about Sarah Hopper, who's she's a lovely lady who runs the B&B, Ferndale B&B.
She's been on my show twice. I love her.
Has she? Yeah.
She's got so much charisma. I love her. So hi, Sarah.
Well, I'm not going to plug her anymore then if she's been on your show. No, she's fantastic. She's a real champion for Shrewsbury. You know, she never stops enthusing about it. And when her guests arrive at the B&B, you know, she's able to point them in the right direction, say, "Oh, you must go and have a look at the castle. You must do this." Walking on
and a scavenger hunt of those as well that she does around. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I know.
Treasure hunt.
The treasure hunt. Yeah, she's involved in so many things. Yeah. So yeah, Castle Gates is featured. Shropshire supports refugees. Amanda, who runs that.
Yeah.
What an incredible person she is. You know. And yeah, that's a very, very important charity, especially in these times. And there's a significant piece from Amanda about the work that they do. There's a charities roundup as well across 2 pages where we feature lots of different Shrewsbury charities. It would have been nice, you know, if the book had 200 pages instead of just 100, we could have featured quite a few more. But across 2 pages, we've featured the Samaritans, the Shrewsbury Food Hub, the Food Bank, Street Pastors, the Shrewsbury Arc, Community Resource, Bethage, Fairtrade, Energize, Shropshire Mental Health Support, Alzheimer's Society, and Shropshire Cycle Hub. You know, all fantastic organisations. And there's just a few paragraphs about each one, what they do, how to contact them, and next time round we'll do another batch.
Shropshire Mental Health Service as well. We're chatting at the moment to try and organise an interview because I'd love to speak to them about what they do. So that's coming soon. I got that to look forward to. Phil, you've written this book about all these champions of Shrewsbury. Maggie Love and Sarah Hopper and Lorraine and all these amazing people. But you yourself have put this together to promote this town and show people how beautiful this place is. And people may buy this book and send it somewhere else. Tourists may buy it and take it home with them. So honestly, thank you on behalf of the town for actually being an absolute superstar champion of Shrewsbury and doing this, because it shows a lot of passion and you're sharing the love. So,
well, that's very kind of you, Alex. Thank you very much. Yeah, I am clearly passionate about the town. Some people might say, "Goodness me, he's such a parochial person." I mean, he was.
No one's ever said that. No one.
He was born here. He still lives here now. I mean, he's never. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. I mean, I have lived in other towns, and none of them match up. I won't name them, but for about 10 years, I moved around the country and lived in different towns, and none of them compare. So I was very keen to return to my hometown. But I don't think it's a case of being parochial. I think it's a case of being lucky.
Yeah.
If you are lucky enough to love the place, and it doesn't have to be Shrewsbury, I'm just saying, if you're lucky enough to love the place you live in, I mean, how great is that?
From an outsider, I'm not a Salopian. I'm an adopted Salopian, I guess now. And I felt head over heels in love with this town. I love it to pieces, And I lived in Wrexham, and that sounds like, and we had Chester on our doorstep. And Chester is a beautiful town, and city, should I say? I couldn't imagine living in Chester though. Whereas Shrewsbury, it was just like a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, it's just got so much, hasn't it? It's not just the historic buildings. It's obviously a very beautiful place to walk around, but it's also, places like this, the market. We came in here, we had our son and daughter-in-law come and stay with us over Easter with the grandchildren, and we came in here and we had such a great time. It was absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, here in the evenings is just wonderful. It is a wonderful, wonderful place. One of my favourite nights of all time in Shrewsbury is in this building, and it was after the light switch. I think it was while you were mayor, actually.
Yeah.
And they had the ukulele band over there.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was walking around, and you couldn't move where we are now in GinDifferent. And it was just buzzing. The food smelled amazing, the hustle and bustle. But then everybody stopped and they listened when the ukulele band started off, and it was just a magical, jolly feeling. And so, this place is quite special. So don't knock the Market Hall people. It's got some very it's got great acoustics. I think that's what I'm trying to say. And after we finish this, I'm going to go find some food. It's Thursday, so it's kind of half open today. So. We'll find something, but
no, it's a great place. It really is. Yeah, I love it.
If there's anything we can do for you with a review, as far as social media is concerned, please we'll share this and we'll help you out and try and sell you a few copies. And ladies and gentlemen, like I said, if you've bought the book and you've enjoyed it, please tell the author, the guy that's put it together, Phil, that you've enjoyed what he's put together. Because, have you had feedback of people said, "Oh, I like this, I didn't like that, or I wasn't too keen on this"?
So far, as I say, we've done very little publicity really, apart from Facebook. I think Facebook and a little bit of Twitter. But yes, we've had some lovely comments, really lovely comments, and I wish I'd typed them out and brought them in today, and then I could read them. But no,
here's Jennifer from, and she says,
well, we've had some cracking comments. That the photography is fantastic, and the writing, though I say it myself, is not bad. But I think it kind of does encapsulate the town, because it's a really nice mix, as I say, of the gorgeous historic buildings and also the characters that make this town tick. So it's a nice combination.
Well, thank you so much for coming to meet me today. I always enjoy speaking to you. It's always a pleasure. It really is, because I think we have a lot in common in some respects because of our passion for the town.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we also have great conversations, whether it's in front of a microphone or not. So, and you know what, you've been a friend of the biscuit right from the very beginning. Because when I first started doing this, I remember you saying, "Oh, let's go for a coffee and a chat."
Yeah,
and we did, and we spoke about it. So, from the bottom of my heart, genuinely, thank you for being a friend.
Oh, Alex,
that means a lot. And I want to tell you guys as well about what's going on with the biscuit. So things are changing a little bit with me and how I produce content and things, because. I used to have my content was all held on a host. A host is where our audio goes and then gets spread around the world. We used to use Podbean. I fell out with them though, because they deleted my original content from Thorskin, my original podcast. It's all gone, and I was really annoyed. So we changed to Captivate, a brand new British-run podcast hosting service. So if you are following us on Podbean, look for us on either iTunes, Spotify. You can even go to Captivate and take a look there. So if you solely listen to us on Podbean, we haven't disappeared. We've just changed host. And also our website is the shrewsburybiscuitpodcast.co.uk. All of our content's available on there. You can press play off the website and it will play for you. And that's made for us by our friends at Web Orchard. If you need a website for anything, they will sort you out the perfect website. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you've got an Etsy account, whether you've got a band or maybe you've got a podcast, they'll make a website that's beautiful just for you. Phil, thank you so much.
Thanks, Alex.
And we'll catch you guys next time.
All the best.
Peace out.